Hello students. Today our topic is digestive system and this is the digestive system part 2. Myself Dr. Nisha Siroya, assistant professor in zoology, SPC Government College Ajmer. We will discuss today about the digestion process and many organs which are helpful in this process. And what is digestion and how it helps us. So we all know that it is an important process that breaks down the protein, fats, carbohydrate, vitamins, minerals into simpler forms so that it can be absorbed easily into the body cells. Because the protein, fats and carbohydrates are large molecule and they cannot be absorbed um, as so during this process proteins are converted into amino acids, carbohydrates are converted into simple sugars and fats are broken down into fatty acids and glycerol. Many digestive enzymes and hormones act on food at various stages during the process of digestion. We will study about it in detail. So the whole process occurs in a sequential manner. There are many steps are found. So before that we have to understand the structure of this digestive system. First, the pharynx. It is divided for descriptive purpose into three parts: the nasopharynx, oropharynx and laryngopharynx. The nasopharynx, it is the nasal part of pharynx, lies behind the nasal cavities above the soft palate. The eustachian tubes, which are also called the auditory tubes, connect nasopharynx with the middle ear. The second is oropharynx. This is the oral part of the pharynx, lies behind the oral cavity, means buccal cavity. The nasopharynx and oral cavity open into the oropharynx, which is a common for passage for the food and air. The laryngopharynx, it consists of laryngeal part of the larynx and is the most inferior portion of the pharynx. It leads into the esophagus behind and into the larynx in front. In this diagram we can see these three parts separately. There are laryngopharynx, which is the common pathway for the and soft palate are also visible, eustachian tubes and the oropharynx. So these three parts of pharynx are there. The function of pharynx is a common passage for food and air. So when we swallow our food, it goes through the pharynx. Now the Walder ring. The lymphatic tissue of the pharynx and oral cavity are arranged in a ring-like manner, which are collectively called the Walder ring. And the ring mainly consists of the following: pharyngeal tonsils is attached to pharynx. In children, pharyngeal tonsil may become enlarged and is then referred to as the adenoids. The result swelling may be cause of obstruction to normal breathing. We know about it that there are tonsils. So this is the main reason. Tubal tonsils are situated around the eustachian tubes and palatine tonsils are attached to the palate. The palatine tonsils are often infected, leading to sore throat. Such enlarged tonsils may become a focus of infection and their surgical removal becomes necessary. Sometimes the infection is very they infected this area, and the only treatment is the surgical removal. Lingual tonsil is attached to the pharyngeal part of the tongue. So all these lymphoid tissues are active in production of immunoglobulin, a form an important part of immune system. So this is a Walder ring. In this ring, we can see the tonsils, the palatine tonsils, the lingual tonsils, eustachian tubes, and the tubal tonsils. So, this is the arrangement in our oral cavity. Next part is esophagus. The human esophagus or food pipe is about 25 centimeter long, and it lies behind the trachea and the heart. It comprises three parts: cervical part in the neck, thoracic part in the thorax, and the abdominal part in the abdomen. The esophagus passes through the diaphragm and open into the stomach. So this is a common pathway, and in this area no digestion occurs. The esophagus transfers food from the pharynx to the stomach. This is the only function of the esophagus, that it make a pathway, and it transfer food to pharynx to the stomach. So in the mouth, digestion begins. When we chew our food, it mixes with saliva, and which not only supplies moisture but also the carbohydrate digesting enzyme amylase. Saliva is a very saliva is made up of mucus, some salts, and these enzymes, and this is secreted by the salivary glands. When we eat raw food, its enzyme work with the salivary amylase to begin the digestion. Now, digestion in the oral cavity. When food is taken in through the mouth, chewing and mixing of the food occurs. There is also a chemical breakdown of carbohydrate due to the action of saliva from the salivary glands. 30% of the starch is hydrolyzed by the action of amylase, which is a salivary enzyme. The other enzyme, lysozyme, is an antibacterial agent and which prevents infection. So, in the oral cavity, starch plus salivary amylase, and this converts starch into maltose. Mastication of food and swallowing of food are the important activities that take place here in the oral cavity. Food is broken down into smaller particles by the chewing action of the teeth. As saliva is added, it mixes with the food particles and slowly moistening and lubricating the food.